Alright, y'all. We kind of halfway got to give the tinfoil hatters a round. Um, it turns out that a lot of these VPN services are good enough to spoof your location to where if they're a hardware VPN, hardware-based VPN, and like in between your Wi-Fi router, and your ISP router, your access point, and your ISP router, or whatever. If you just have one of these little, they make VPN boxes that are their own hotspot, stuff like that. Some of them mind, some of them don't. Most of them don't, in fact. But if they spoof your location good enough, which most of them do, hell, even software ones can do that for this purpose, and you are taking updates while your device and the servers overseas, which probably actually know better, because VPNs are not as good at keeping you hidden as you think. Any flock can be picked. They're just meant to keep honest people out. And in the case of VPNs, the keys have to pass both ways. In the case of any encrypted technology, the keys have to pass both ways, or you have to carry the keys with you. Yeah, last option is the better, but nobody does that. They haven't for a long time. They used to. It's been one hell of a long time since I carried the keys back and forth by me. And by the way, your most effective key ever was a crystal, at least to my knowledge, because crystals are always unique. And two of them, just that. Because then you'd have two different keys passing back and forth. And they're very complex keys. The average crystal could easily fill an old school CD with points. Just covering that base in there. But anyway, if you spoof through these VPNs, apparently what is happening is some devices, Windows devices in particular, Apple devices, but don't just give me a break with that bullshit. They've never been secure. It's all smoke mirrors and bullshit with them. Always has been. But you know, I mean, for what those things do, great. But say you take a Windows update or one of your devices updates because A, it thinks that you're overseas, and B, next criteria to be met, the update servers think you're overseas because yo dumbass spoofed them. Well, there are, throughout the EU, several backdoors that come with those updates in some circumstances. Well, actually quite a few. And we're just now discovering that a lot of devices located here in the U.S. going through those VPNs, you end out opening up all those European backdoors that the various European governments, EU governments, think that they have a right to because they think that the average person has zero right to privacy. Well, there's a couple of those backdoors that require no username or password. You just have to know where they're at. And they'll let somebody in to cruise your entire network, not just the device you're on. I mean, if you take these updates and somebody gets in, everything is compromised. They can cruise around your network, check you out, just like they own the machine you've been infected. And you'd never know it. And there are hardware vulnerabilities showing up in some of the newer equipment that's coming out of the EU, but, you know, and that's becoming a problem too because manufacturers are pretty small. The smaller manufacturers can't afford to make a separate version, so they've got a one version fits all. And those backdoors are pretty much open. But you can't blame the U.S. government on this one, so the tinfoil hatters only get half this round. because you can't blame the U.S. government if it happens to you, because it's your own stupidity for spoofing your location to a country that thinks it's okay to invade your privacy at that level. And I can see where it opens it for abuse, because let's take Florida's. Just at the state level, the unauthorized access of a network. Excuse me a minute. State Florida's unauthorized access of the network laws. If you don't need a username or a password to get into it, you ain't broke no fucking laws. Same goes at the federal levels. So by you taking those updates, say, Jimmy Joe Bob from the county up there, deputy. Or, Billy Paul from the state patrol. If they want in your shit, and you have opened those doors on your own, they haven't broken any laws, that's your bad. And you basically put it out as publicly accessible information. And you're not, when you take those updates and you do compromise your own device and your own network, it's not just your device that you have compromised. It's every single network that you try to attach to can now be cruised and see anything that your device can see. And you don't really thank the crypto mining community for this one. You thank the guys installing hotspots and watching security breaches at restaurants, nightclubs, bars, grills, truck stops, airports. Not so much airports, because they would hide that from you, I'm sorry. They would have to keep their mouth shut. But they're seeing where these breached machines are coming in on their networks and trying to cruise around, and hopefully they're stopping them, but I mean, at least they're noticing traffic that shouldn't be there. That's really all I'm willing to elaborate on that. I don't really give a shit about foreign governments, but I don't want to get in trouble with none of them no more either. We have been that around with foreign governments. And our own too, more than a few times. That would have been regular military. Article 15 would have been part of my regular vocabulary. But it never was regular. Got kicked out of the RCA after as a kid. Anyway. Score half a one for the tinfoil hatters, I guess. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's making for an interesting read. I'm kind of backing off of it because it's really none of my business. I just think it comical and humorous that such a thing could happen, and all this time the tinfoil hatters have been worried about, the government's going to do this and this and this to get into my shit. And then something like this comes along where some of the very free crap, most of it's free VPNs that are causing it. Well, allowing it. That would be a better, allowing it. Helping it. Maybe if you're going to pick a software VPN, pick one that's going to make your machine on its end just stop all updates, including as far as VPN for your phones and devices. I don't do that. I mean, if I'm ever going to do anything with nefarious. I'm gonna hand the neighbor kid my phone and let him play games all day while I go do whatever, but I'm too old to do any of that shit, so there's no worries there. Fuck, I can barely walk out to the damn shed. But anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to word it a little bit better, a little bit clearer, let it sink in. That it's amusing, it's ironic that these VPNs that most of the tinfoil hatters claimed were already being watched. They were right, but that wasn't the breach. So you only get half the point. Because the breach was being dumbass enough to take updates while your location was spoofed to countries, not just within the EU, which allow infringing on your privacy. And I don't know if there's more countries than just the couple that were mentioned from the EU whose backdoors do not require usernames or passwords. I truly don't give a shit. I'm not into that. I haven't been into that for several years. I learned about how to crack into shit just to keep people out of shit. If you don't know how they get in, you don't know how to keep them out. It's that simple. If you do know how they get in, well, you can do your best to block that door. And years and years and years ago, unless you're playing completely off the internet on your own land, which takes the chance of anything from the wild actually attacking you, it became just too risky for anyone to play because it's, I don't know, Fed boys, they tend to, anything that they don't understand is nefarious. And if you want an example of that, now I'm not talking about the big one in New York where they thought that they were going to disrupt cell service and shit like this. I'm talking about a littler one where they were trying to talk the kids into that shit. A lot of these pictures of a recent bust of these guys were going to disrupt cell phone service, blah, blah, blah. I must assume, please God, that those are just stock photos that were used, because the photos that I saw, that was crypto mining gear. It wasn't call center gear. And crypto mining gear generally shuts down the Wi-Fi and all of the internet goes through your USB or Lightning interface at the bottom of the device. Similar to Wi-Fi mode, but you've got internet on the things, but it does cripple the radios, and the minute you put them in that cradle, even the Bluetooth doesn't work. Those were mining cradles that I saw in those pictures. Those were not call center cradles. But there are cheaper mining cradles. But you gotta wonder, did those guys buy the call center cradles and then get talked into it? Is there validity to the claim from other people that they were going to crypto mine, but they got talked into some federal charge that had nothing to do with what they actually bought them for? Again, I'm not talking about the big one in New York. Actually, I'm not sure if that was New York or New Jersey. It was one of the two, though. So, anyway, there you go. Half a point for the tinfoil hatters.